Just another video, guys. Sorry about the way I'm sitting. It's just that I've had pretty bad back, and I've been taking what is it, ibuprofen, anti-inflammatories, and I'm not really meant to take them because when you've got an ulcer, they tend to make it worse. But I can't really take anything else for pain. I can't be taking other opiates and stuff like that. So that's why I'm sort of seated in a bit of a strange position. But yeah, I just want to do another video really about the first time I injected in prison, which is this was 1991 or 92. I was in Belmarsh, and I think it was house block 2. I can't remember what house block, but as you know, I've said before, I'm from Carshalton, and there was a few guys in there from around that way, and one of them was a guy called Dean Howes, who I knew from the outside, from down Mill Green, Mitcham that way, and he used to serve up. He's dead now, sadly. I can't remember. He was on remand, or he was doing a sentence. I can't really remember, but I think it was remand because he was getting, back then you could have like a visit every day, and he was getting 5 visits a week. I think it's been changed now when you're on remand to like 3 visits a week, which is pretty bad, really. Because it's not like America here. It's like you're guilty in this country until you're found proven innocent, not the other way round. You know. That's why I'm used to get a visit every day because you hadn't been convicted. But I think that's changed now. But so basically I'm on the wing, and Dean's there, and basically he used to go out on a visit every day. His missus used to come up, look after him, and he'd get his bit of gear for that day. And obviously on a Friday, I don't think he had weekend visits. He'd get a bit more at the weekend. So there was always people hovering around him, fair weather friends, just wanting to hang around with him for a bit of gear and that. But this one time, I bought a bag off him. I said, "Yeah, can you do us a bag? A £10 bag." And I think I arranged to pay him with canteen. Whatever. He'd give me a list for a tenner's worth and of canteen, and I'd pay him. The following canteen day, called a canteen deal. But and I got this £10 bag off him, and it was so small, it was unbelievable. I thought I couldn't even smoke it. It was like a match head. But what actually happened was there's a guy, one of the cleaners called Mick. Mick the cleaner. He was a lot older. I was about 21 then, and Mick must have been in his 50s, the cleaner. But he was actually a diabetic, and he had to have insulin injections, which it would have been in his stomach, every day. So he'd have to go down to healthcare. They'd give him a new syringe, and then he'd do that, and then he'd throw it in the sin bin. And I just want to state this fact as well that diabetics, they don't inject into their veins, so it wouldn't have had blood in it or anything like that. But basically, what he used to do down a healthcare centre. He'd be given his syringe, his insulin, and he'd do that, pop it into his stomach. And what he used to do, they used to have a sin bin there. So after he's done the injection, he's meant to throw the syringe into the sin bin. So he was telling me how he got this. He'd basically, when he was throwing the syringe away into the sin bin, he'd literally not throw it in there. He'd put his hand in there and then palm the syringe back up his sleeve, bit of sleight of hand. And then obviously he brought that back to the wing, and I'd buy that off him for, I think it was a half ounce of baccy or a phone card, £2 phone card, which was pretty good value. And obviously, I'd clean that through with soap, boiling water quite a few times, cold water, hot and cold water, but like as I say, it had only been used once, and as used by him as a diabetic, very dangerous thing to do though, to use other people's equipment like that, especially in prison. But like I say, I only ever done it that once there in Belmarsh, and I was doing it in Downview and High Point, but in Downview, uh, I had someone bring me up some, from the outside. They went into a chemist, bought some, and they cut them down to size, so I could get them on the visit, and yeah, so I had them there. And then in High Point, there was people using needles in High Point, and a lot of people that were suspected of that were pulled in, and we all had to have blood tests and all that, and I was one of them. But at that point in High Point, I wasn't using needles, especially other people's, because it's not what I really used to do, because being into the drugs from such a young age, I was quite clued up on the safety of catching diseases and stuff like that. So, it's just a red flag there, never share a needle. And it does happen a lot in prison, you know. I think I've said it before. Someone was telling me a story about back in the day when they was on F Wing, in Brixton, and someone had a needle and they were sharpening it up, on the strike of a matchbox and all stuff like that, So yeah, it does go on. And I mean, I've seen people in there, 6, 7 guys in a cell, all using the needle one after the other, So, but all that scene, definitely not for me, That's not what I was about. So basically, yeah. So that one time in Belmarsh, yeah. So like I say, I had to. I've got this needle off Mick the cleaner, and I've got a bag off Dean. So basically, what I'm going to do is have this hit, and like I said, it was a tiny little bag, and what I used is a Coke tin, an empty Coke tin, tear it in half, and the inverted bit at the bottom of the can, I put a bit of vinegar in there and the gear, cook it up underneath with a lighter, then a filter from a cigarette, draw it up, and I had the hit. But like I say, it was a really small bag, and yeah. And I think what I did, I actually sold that equipment, the needle, back on to someone else, after that, and carried on just smoking gear, But like I say, yeah, not to be recommended doing things like that, because like I've said before, using other people's needles, catch hepatitis B, hepatitis C, and I've had both of those. Luckily, hepatitis B nearly killed me, and I survived it. I had it when I was 18, and I'm pretty sure I know the person who infected me with that. But luckily, I got over it. I was in Guy's Hospital for a couple of weeks, and back then there was no cure for that. Then in the 80s, it was only in the 90s that they got a vaccine for hepatitis B, and I had my own immunity already, and then I had the vaccine top up in the 90s, and then hepatitis C came along, and I had that as well. They reckon 90% of all drug addicts have that hepatitis C. It's curable now, but back then it wasn't, and basically my body built up an immunity to hepatitis C as well, and yeah. So I've been very, very lucky, and basically I caught those basically from probably using somebody else's needle, which I have done, and very much not proud of that. Very dangerous game to do. People say they'll never do it, and then you get into a situation where, that's the only way you can do it. You might be two of you, you might be so sick, you might be in a cell, and your cellmate's offering you a bit, but I've only got this bit in the needle, I can squirt you a bit back after I've used it and all that, and people think they can't be bothered to wash it out, they're that ill, and then they just draw it up and it might have a bit of blood in it, and the next thing you know, they've got HIV or hepatitis and they're dying, or anything, septicemia, and that is what goes on, because prison for a lot of junkies is a really desperate, horrible place, so yeah. I did hear in Scotland back in the 90s they was handing out, or unknowingly handing out bleach tablets to inmates, so they could clean their equipment out, but I don't know whether that's true or not. I think it might be. But yeah, and you used to get people making their own little things. I've never seen one, you know, I've heard about this. That's why cotton buds used to be banned in certain prisons, you know, because you could make a syringe out of it using a cotton bud and a pen. And I used to think to myself, how could you use a cotton bud to inject yourself? But apparently that's what I've heard. But with my veins at the time, that just wouldn't have been possible, you know. But apparently I heard they used to use the cotton bud, the tube from a pen, and somehow make a plunger and all that sort of thing, you know. But no, that wasn't for me. I'd rather just smoked it, you know. So, you know, sometimes, you know, doesn't matter if you're really sick, you know, you just do something and regret it afterwards. So, you know, but yeah, I've been very lucky in my life. Anyway, yeah, just another quick one there about the dangers of using other people's needles in prison. And I just want to say on that subject, with all them sort of diseases, hepatitis and that, it's not just needles you catch that off. You know, you can catch stuff like that from sharing a pipe, you know. If someone's got a cut lip and they've been piping, you know, and they pass it on to someone else and they use that pipe, you know. That's how it's caught. Or, you know, it could even be someone's got a cut in their nose, a tiny cut, and they're snorting something with a tube and then they pass that on, you know. And you know, sharing a tube when you're smoking a brown. So, you know, it's always best to remember, you know, just always be on your guard around stuff like that, guys, you know, and girls, because, like I say, horrible diseases, hepatitis and septicemia, are not nice at all, and not a nice way to go. And I've known many people now that have had hepatitis C from the 90s, and then within 20 years it's turned into liver cancer, which is what it does, and then they've died of it. My little mate, little Tony, that's how he went from Rosehill there. Yeah, and he was in Belmarsh as well, and he sorted me out a few times in there. And I used to feel a little bit sorry for him though, because a lot of people were robbing him and stuff like that. You do get that a lot in jail. If you got something and people find out, if you're not sharing it with them, they're just out to rob you all the time, you know. So yeah, it's always best to stand up for yourself in there, guys. And yeah, well, I'm going to leave it there. That's like 12 minutes. And yeah, I'll get this video uploaded, guys. And thanks a lot for watching. Thank you.